question for this segment deals with states' rights and the concept of subsidiarity. As a congressman representing the state of Indiana, what would you do to represent the best interests of our state, free us from undue federal meddling, and allow for greater state and local control? And we'll start with Dr. McGough.
Thank you. My name is John McGough. I'm the candidate 5th District Congress. Great question. Our founding fathers produced that document over 230 years ago, and they were very, very thoughtful when they looked at it. And specifically, they had the 10th Amendment. I'm sure many of you can recite that ad nauseum. It said anything not ascribed to federal powers go back to the states or to their people. And what's happened is the federal bureaucracy has grown bigger and bigger and bigger, growing in more and more in our lives. Perfect example, it's been mentioned a little bit earlier tonight, the Department of Education. You know that the Department of Education now has over 100,000 employees. How does that make any sense at all? 100,000 employees. Couldn't we better use that money, the billions of dollars, and bring it back here to Howard County? Doesn't that make a lot of sense? How about the Department? Absolutely. How about the Department of Energy? Does that make any sense at all? Do you know the history of that? It was started during the 70s, during the Carter administration, to get us off the dependence on foreign oil, and now we're spending billions and billions of dollars on the Department of Energy. Hasn't done any one of those things. We need to get back to government, which is best, and that's at the local level. The federal government needs to stand back and get out of our life and return it back to the State House where it belongs. Thank you.
Once again, it comes down to listening and problem solving. In my experience in the state legislature, I've stood up for 2 of our constitutional amendments. The 10th Amendment, which John so accurately described, that amendment's not even taught in high schools anymore. I've tried to get that amendment back into our school curriculum. But maybe most recently, I've stood up for your Second Amendment rights. I mentioned earlier how I passed a law that says that your gun permit information is your information, it's private information. I'm catching a lot of crap from a lot of newspapers across the state. Not all newspapers, but many of them because of that. And the second way I've stood up for your Second Amendment rights, and we're waiting to see if the governor signs the bill, hopefully tomorrow, is I co-authored a bill that says that local governments may not, they are prohibited from restricting the sale of guns and ammo during a civil crisis. We don't need Kokomo or Indianapolis or Carmel or Noblesville to be another New Orleans. And the second part of that bill, and just as important, says that employers must allow you, they cannot prohibit you from having a gun in your car in their parking lot when you come to work in the morning or an evening. You have to be able to protect yourself on your way to work and on your way home from work. It's easy to talk about constitutional rights. It's much harder to actually put in the work to protect them, and I've done that for you across the state of Indiana. Thank you.
Well, I believe in state sovereignty, that's for sure. But I do think that there needs to be a larger discussion on that, or a more in-depth discussion on that. I'm the type of guy who stands up and says what I know and what I know, pardon me, what I don't know, what I know, and what I think. So talking about state sovereignty is a tricky issue, I think. I think it's great until the state actually has to ask for federal dollars to balance the budget, pave the roads, run and operate our schools. So just saying state sovereignty needs to be fixed, I think that it's a lot larger issue. And we would have to get down into the details for me to actually answer this question properly. Thank you. I'm Martin Dolan, and I'm running for the 2nd District and Congressional seat. And I have a website, martindolan.org. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Jack Jordan, and I plan on beating Joe Donnelly in the November election, again, and again, and again. I've had a lot of experience with this whole federal versus state issue, and we all know the 10th Amendment. I'm the president of our local school board, and it is unacceptable the number of federal mandates that come from Washington, D.C. to Kokomo, to Bremen, to Logansport, and around to try to get between our teachers and our students. What right do they have to do that? I was CEO of a subsidiary of Eli Lilly and Company, which had operations in 8 states, and we delivered health care in those 8 states. The federal government had mandates for how we operated local wellness clinics in these various 8 states. What right does the federal government have to become between doctors, nurses, and patients? I would say no right. And so I've got extensive experience in seeing how the federal government, when given the opportunity, and Joe Donnelly certainly keeps giving him the opportunity as he votes for Nancy Pelosi to be the House leader, I think you, with the rest of us, understand that the federal government does very few things well, and it's the states and its individuals that are behind the greatness of this wonderful country we live in. Thank you.
You know, I've told you that I like and admire Murph and Mr. Messer here. They're both talented legislators, but to be honest with you, I'm not so convinced that we're doing everything real hunky-dory down at the State House. The truth of the matter is that we keep moving power in the state up. We've got our school funding formula so screwed up now that no schools, including my friend here who's chairing the school board, can make sense of it, because we send all our money to Indy, and then we send it back about 50 cents on the dollar in some micromanaged mess. We're doing the same thing with local units of government now. Now, I'm running for federal office in the 5th District. My name's Brose McVeigh. And when it comes to protecting states' rights, I've been there. When the last Attorney General wanted to protect your do not call statute, you know that one? The one that keeps you from getting unwanted phone calls, he asked me to lead the battle nationally to protect us from the FCC and the telemarketers preempting Indiana's law. They wanted to water it down. So they asked me to go out there, and I worked with the attorney generals and with state legislators and others to try to protect it. And it really taught me a lot about sovereignty. I'm not an attorney, but these guys around me taught me the details, and we went out there and communicated. And I can tell you that every day now, the federal government, a bit at a time, is encroaching. It's taking away your sovereignty at the local and federal and state level. Now, it is very, very difficult to sincerely talk about it here today, and one reason is we want to talk about competition in healthcare. We're talking about federal preemptions that cross state lines. So let's be sober about it and know that it's a difficult topic. Thank you.
First of all, I'm not a politician or a lobbyist. My name is Andy Lyons, Republican candidate, 5th District. I am a high school history and economics teacher, and Mr. Murphy, I hate to disagree with you, but I guarantee you my kids learn the 10th Amendment. I will tell you how bad it is. I get my curriculum guide. They want us to spend about 2 days on the Revolutionary War in U.S. history. They want us not even to really mention the amendments, because government will do that. Wrong answer. We have a serious problem. It is the federal government. State sovereignty. This is what I will do when elected. I'm going to hand out 535 constitutions. I'm going to ask each one of them, do you know what this is? And then I'm going to ask them, why aren't you following it? The 10th Amendment was designed so we would have the power, so they wouldn't become corrupt, become abusive, oppressive, and tyrannical. And that's what they've done. That's what needs to be solved. It's the federal government, and it is going to take 350 million people to stand up and say, time is up. We want our country back. Period.